I'll wait him out. I don't think I should repel
All
with
right.
people in the room. I don't think I can repel that quietly.
Yeah, um, one of them finishes his prayer and leaves. The other one says like four more prayers, which feels like an eternity, but it's probably only 15 minutes or so. Um, and then he also leaves. Yeah,
All right. I repel down into the room, best of my ability.
yep. Your many years of sailing and maneuvering around the rigging of ships does you good service here, and you're able to get down without any difficulty pretty quickly and stealthily. Once you're in the main worship hall, um, you see that the priest's worship seems to have pretty much ended, and they're likely all going about their other various duties. They have meals to prepare, wine to prepare for the next day, and things like that. So there's still people, going around and working, but not really in this main hall.
Okay. Kind of like you know, I'm assuming is are they like would it be weird if I had a hood on? Like do
No.
they okay. Yeah, so I'll walk around the building sort of, hood up, kind of head down like I'm kind of like praying or meditating if you will,
Mhm.
that kind of stance. And I'll
Yeah,
head
if you
first.
had if you were to just grab like one of the books out of this room, it'd probably be a really good cover. Just walk around like you're reading it.
Yeah, the old Assassin's Creed, just read a book and you're instantly hidden from your enemies.
Is that
Um,
a thing in those games?
no, I think you have to stand still in like a crowd.
Oh.
You're instantly forgotten by your enemies. Yeah, so I'll grab a book, and then I'll begin walking around the building looking for our man. I think I'll head first to like I don't know. I guess I'll head to what I believe whatever direction like the study or like where people go to like relax after a hard days of praying.
Sure. Yeah. You go to the library. Um, and you do find Zaken Pothet there. Um, although he's not reading, or studying, or conversing with anybody. He is packing a bag.
Oh, son of a bitch! He's packing a bag in the library. Are people like watching him do this? Like, does he seem
No, he's the only one in here. But
okay?
yeah, he's taking a few books and putting them into a bag that looks to already be pretty full of, just from the shape and kind of the deformations of the outside of the bag. It looks like it's got clothes in it. Um, maybe a bedroll. And yeah, he's taking
Um,
a few books from the library.
okay, shit. Um, you said there's no one else in here. Has he taken notice of me entering the room?
Uh, nope, not really. I mean, he probably heard you come in, but he's not flustered or anything.
Okay. Yeah, I just wonder if he's like hiding if this is a secretive action that he is doing. In that case, if he is not bothered by my presence, I will go to like a a bookshelf where I could like pick up books out of the bookshelf and then see him. Like I'm looking
Mhm.
through the books, but I'm just spying on him really.
Yep, yeah, high school stalker style.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, you do that and you observe him as he takes a few books and puts them into his bag. Then he pulls the cords on the bag tight, ties a knot, uh, and then slips his shoulder through a strap on the outside of the bag, and does a quick look around, and he mutters a short excerpt of a prayer for travel under his breath as he steps out of the library.
Um, I will follow him in a normal
Okay.
follow distance
Okay.
that will almost definitely creep him out.
Yeah. He walks through the halls. At one point, after about a minute, he does look over his shoulder, um, and sees you following him. He doesn't like recognize you or anything, um, but he does seem to kind of notice that he's being followed, and he is headed toward the main worship hall.
Um, hmm. Is there any way that I could get to the main worship hall before he does? Is there any sort of like
You could like cut down to a another corridor and then like run.
my little cane just running down the hallway?
Well, because
Yeah,
you'd lose time,
yeah, for sure.
moving to a another hall.
Um, yes, I'd like to beat him to the main hall, and yeah, so run down another hallway. Hopefully, not run into any other priests, and then if I have given enough time, I would like to sit in like one of the the pews closest to the exit. There's pews, right?
Um, not really. They don't
Kneeling
really do
pads.
like large audience sermons or anything. Um, but you could like kneel at one of the altars. That would be the most normal place for him to see another priest in that hall.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'll do that. I'll kneel at the altar, out of breath, panting.
Okay. um, as you kind of slow down and walk into the main hall, you look over to make sure that you're still ahead of him, and he hasn't come in yet. But there is another priest in here again, uh, who is kneeling at one of the altars, um, and you can see him with his prayer book, uh, praying.
Is there a knife in his prayer book? Is there a knife on page 45?
There's
You
like
too, huh?
You
it's one of those books with
you
like the shit carved out so you can put stuff in it. Like
you could like go kneel next to him if you wanted to get a better look. Otherwise, you can't really tell. He's just kneeling with his back to you, hood up, praying.
This man is the assassin. This man is 100% I'm gonna kneel next to him.
You go over and kneel next to him, and as you walk up to this altar and get ready to kneel, you see and hear, out of the corner of your vision, Zaken Pothet uh, enter the prayer hall. And as you kneel down next to this man, um, you see that he has both hands on the book, uh, which is kind of the common stance. Uh, Knees together, feet together, eyes forward, not really reading from the book, just has it open to the prayer that he's saying from memory. Um, and he's muttering the prayer in kind of a low drone, very monotone, almost like a chant, uh, while he's staring at the open hands of the mother of men, Bawalapan, to whom he is currently praying. And the hood still sort of blocks the sides of his face, so you can't really get a good look at him.
Does he react at all to Zaken Pothet walking in?
Hmm. Uh, if you look to try and tell, you see a slight movement of his hood, like maybe he turned his head just a little bit.
Okay. Um, and I presume Zaken Pothet is heading towards the sealed doors.
Yep, he is.
I presume he has a key to get out. Um, fuck, there's another person in here. I was gonna do a whole bit.
You don't actually need a key to unlock them from the inside.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just a latching mechanism.
Would brother well, fuck, what's his name now? I fucked it in my brain. Poffit? Name is Poffit?
Sounds right.
That's it.
Use the ledger.
Is he on the ledger? Oh, that's right. He
Hmm.
did. He's just got a token. You look about him.
Neutral most of the way down.
Poffit. Okay, there we go. Would brother Poffit be an appropriate term?
I think Zaken is a title, right?
Kasich
Or
Zaken.
Kasich,
No,
Kasich.
Zaken's
Yeah,
his name.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I suppose like as he goes to as he's approaching the door, I will stand up and go about like halfway towards him.
Okay.
And
As you start to walk toward him, he like stops walking and kind of like looks up and looks at you for a second, and his eyes like dart around the room.
okay, yeah. Um,
He takes one step backwards.
how quickly could he open the door?
If he like dashes to it, he could probably get it open in just a few seconds, but hard to say. They are heavy doors. Unlatching it would be pretty quick, only a few seconds. Pushing it open, um, they're really heavy and they've got a lot of inertia. It's gonna take a lot of pushing.
Okay, yeah. Um,
Just for perspective, these doors are like 20 feet tall and they're double doors and each one's like 12 feet wide. They're big doors and they're metal.
okay.
So they're very heavy.
And even his fellow Cassics would call him Cassic Pothet. Cassic Pothet.
That's Zaken, yeah.
Oh, Cassic Zaken. Okay.
Or just Zaken if they were being informal.
Ooh, I love informality. Um, yeah. So as he's kind of looking towards me and stepping back, um, Demeter will say, "Are you sure, Zaken?"
He he stops stepping backwards and kind of like lowers his head to try and look under your hood. Um, you hear the other man who was praying stop praying and stand up.
Oh God. uh, fuck. I turn around. Is he doing anything menacingly?
Uh,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I
Sure.
I won't be the one to judge whether it is menacing or not. He is standing with his hands folded in front of him. Uh,
Does
Are
he
his,
have both the hands going into the sleeve of the
yeah,
other
both
one?
hands in the
Yeah.
sleeves.
yeah.
Is he in the
Awesome.
drawing a knife pose?
If it's in his sleeve, maybe.
Yeah, that's where it
Um,
is.
and he is standing hips and shoulders facing the two of you. He's maybe 20 feet away, and his head is bowed just slightly to keep the hood like down over his eyes. But you can now see like the lower half of his face. Um, and he has kind of a light brown skin tone with a very defined jaw and
Hmm. Facial hair.
dark stubble.
Does that description fit that of the agent that uh I witnessed with him?
Could definitely be, yeah.
Are people of this land notorious for their darker complexion?
Nope, not very.
Ah, cool. Okay. Excellent. Um, yeah. Well, let's see. I'm either about to commit.
When you turn
Yep.
and look at this guy, Zaken runs for the door. The figure in the robe does not move or react to that at all, except a slight turn of his head watching Zaken run. What do you do?
Um, is Kasich the title for? It's not the title for all of them, right?
Nope.
So there
It's
would
a
be,
rank.
yeah, there'd be no way to know what I should call this unknown figure,
Nope.
and there's no
But if he's
generalized
who you
terms.
think he is, then
Yeah.
he doesn't really have a title.
Yeah. Interesting. Um, I'm gonna take this moment to produce this string and as I would suppose discreetly as I could begin to string up the bow cane.
Yeah, you could definitely like drop the loop um of the string down and like get it over the bottom, and then it would just be a matter of leaning on the bow, bending the top down, and stringing the top of it, and you'd be done.
You've like got your back to him.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, dangerous game, but yeah, I'll have
When you like turn around and face him like you're gonna square off and then start stringing a bow. Hold on.
hold on.
Zaken Zaken lifts the latch, which is pretty loud,
Yeah.
uh, and rotates the rollers, uh, which unlatch the two doors from each other. And he puts one hand on each near where they meet, and with all of his might does the Aragorn push to try
Yeah.
and push the doors open.
I know. Demeter will say,
And
"Taken, don't."
the doors very slowly start to move as he really digs his feet in and pushes. Uh, and the man in the robe takes a step toward him.
At his current pace, would I say that he would intercept Zaken before he gets the door open?
Almost exactly.
Oh wow,
Bullet
timed out
time.
to a T.
Bullet time.
Well, son of a bitch. How am I doing on stringing up this bow?
You've got the loop over the bottom and tight into the notch. So it would just be a a second and a half's work to get the loop into the top.
Okay, I do so.
Okay.
I don't suppose I had the foresight to bring multiple arrows, did I?
Um,
Did I assume I was gonna get it on one? One's all I need, baby. I never miss.
And if you're making a case to only have one arrow, you can.
No, I would have brought more than one. I'm no fool. Not
I think
arrogant.
you'd
I'm sure you
probably
could
have
have like three or
like
four like
four
bundled up.
or
Yeah.
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
three seems like a good round number. I definitely get it in three.
So you draw all 3 arrows and shooting like a spread shot.
Yeah,
Like how
like
cool I am.
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yep.
um. So yeah, once I have the bow strung up, where is he? Has he passed me at this point or no?
Let's do a little scribble.
Also, are these
Okay,
like the front doors?
these are the front
Yeah,
doors.
they're the only doors.
So aren't my dudes like more or less right outside too?
Yeah, I mean they're like across the street outside.
Got it. All right.
So we got, oh god, that's too thick. We got Zaken, the doors, Demeter, and the unknown party.
Oh wow. Okay. Interesting. Um.
It's just Demeter's like mute servant boy who is helping him pack. Oh, we're leaving now, and he starts running after him.
Oh yes, I'm so glad to leave. Yeah, like I'm saying, I'm either about to save everything or I'm gonna commit a heinous crime against a religious figure in the house of the Lord.
I feel like this happens in every game we played.
Yeah, this church getting defiled. I'm sorry. Once I have the bow strung up, I will knock one of the arrows and I will aim for the unknown figure. I don't know
Okay.
how well people could aim bows. I've never shot a bow before. Could I aim for legs, or is that weird?
Um, so you could. This is a pretty low poundage bow. Um, and you don't have like, you know, he's wearing like a heavy robe. Uh,
So,
if
yeah.
you wanted to be effective, you would probably want to go for like a headshot, to be honest. Um, Otherwise, I would just shoot for the body. But I mean,
if
that's me. You
if we
do
want
whatever
the
you
man
want.
alive.
I do want the man alive. Yeah, we can.
Just fucking kill him.
I shoot him in the head. Who cares? I hate this plot line.
we
I don't want to play this one anymore. New plot line, please.
You just hear the angel devil on your shoulder of Brett just screaming, "Just kill him!"
Just kill him. Yeah, I will. I will go for a body shot then, if that is my best odds of damaging this individual in any way.
He seems to have not taken too much notice of you, discreetly and quickly stringing the bow. But once you draw it, um, and the limbs of the bow kind of give that creak, which is a pretty unmistakable sound. He turns and sees you, with the bow drawn, aimed at him. Uh, and he kind of zigs a little bit and dashes towards Zaken. Do you
He's
take the
zigging.
shot?
He should have zagged. He should have zagged. Uh,
You knew he would zig.
I so I-
You prepared for
so
the
he is
zig.
not, so he's zigging and heading towards Zaken, and I correct me if I'm wrong. I have not fired my first shot. Is that correct?
Right, you've not fired.
Well, if I wait too long, he's gonna zag, and then he's basically unbeatable. So I will try to shoot him while he's zigging.
Do it, Cody!
You
I shoot the
you
Zaken
shoot.
in the back, and then I shake my new ally's hand.
Yeah.
You
Hail Hydra, and then I leave.
you let the arrow go, and it does hit him in the body. Um, you see the arrow kind of fly quickly. You aim a little bit ahead of him since he's now like low to the ground and dashing. Uh, it hits him in the side, probably through the ribs, and you see he continues his run, and out of his left sleeve, his right hand pulls a long knife. Uh, Zaken has the doors open just a bit, uh, and he looks over his shoulder, sees this guy running at him, sees the arrow, and Zaken drops the bag off of his back, which would not fit through this opening in the door, and he turns sideways and goes to slip through. And just as he does, with his chest between the doors, and one arm kind of on the inside of the door, the other on the outside of the door, he squeezes his body through as the man reaches him, and the guy slashes and cuts all four fingers off of the inside hand.
Oh, that's
Uh,
gonna stick.
Zaken lurches his hand back and kind of falls through the doors. Uh, and you can see through the narrow opening that he then tumbles down and begins rolling down the steps, kind of pencil rolling. And this this man reaches down, breaks the arrow off, um, and turns sideways to try and get through the doors, but it's a little too narrow for him. And so he
Bigger
puts his
man.
back into it and pushes, and you have another moment.
Um, I based off of their positioning of the guards he placed outside, they are likely now aware of the situation.
Yeah, they've at least seen the doors opening and they saw a man tumble out.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, I presume the fire arrow would be wasted. So, given this man's a fucking a T1000 and is hell bent on killing this man,
I
I'm
used
going to,
diplomacy to calm him down.
yeah, I'm gonna use diplomacy to try to him. I'm gonna put an arrow in one of the nearby braziers, light it on fire, and then attempt to shoot him in the back with, or I guess he's sideways or
Yep.
compared.
Yeah.
I'll shoot him in the wherever. I'll
Okay.
shoot him in the
Yeah.
butt towards him.
You push um the arrow into the fire. I'm guessing you had already like wrapped the tip in cloth and soaked it in oil or something to make
Yeah,
a signal arrow with it.
yeah.
Um, and you let it fly from kind of an underdraw. Um, and it sinks into his arm as he slips through, and his robe kind of like on the arm and shoulder go up in flames as he pushes through the door. And as his arm kind of comes back through the door, he lurches his shoulder and breaks the arrow off in the doors as his arm slips through. um, Shoulder and arm still on fire. Uh, and he slips through, and you can see through the crack in the doors uh, that he runs down the steps, and you see another figure running across the street, reaches the steps, and starts running up the steps toward him. Um,
They see the guy. That's the signal.
Zaken,
Signal. I'll give you a signal.
Zaken is still pencil rolling down the steps. The man from the street jumps over Zaken as he rolls down the steps and kicks this third party in the chest. Um, the guy tumbles down, still on fire, and like kind of throws the robe aside, um, and actually tangles up the fourth man in it. And then you see a fifth man come running from the other point where you uh, had stationed someone. What do you want to do?
Uh, yeah. So at any given moment, I will be rushing like towards the door to get out and
Okay.
join the conflict.
Yep, you're able to slip through the doors. Um, you see the assassin has has like wrapped the burning robe around the shoulders of his first attacker. He puts his heel into his waist and kind of rolls and throws the guy down onto the stairs, and then stands up and runs again as the next man comes up and draws a sword. Uh, you recognize this new man as Circassus, uh, and
Rest in peace, Circassus.
he kind of holds the sword in front of him and says, "Stop!" Uh, and the assassin kind of runs forward, does a little bit of like a turn and pirouette, uh, and throws his knife at Circassus, um, who like abruptly and with far more kind of skill and speed than you would have expected, parries the knife out of the air, uh, and reorients his blade to defend against the kick that follows. And he ducks down and swings the sword vertically, and chops through the guy's knee, almost severing the assassin's leg at the knee. And the guy drops and tumbles down the steps as Cassus rolls out of the way, and watches as this guy falls down, kind of the same route that Zaken fell. Um, the other
Uh,
man, wrapped in the
yeah.
burning robe, who you now see as Sir Gillum, throws the robe off of him and stands up as you get past him, uh, and you reach Circassus.
I will turn to Circassus and I'll say, "Good work, but go grab a medic. I need him alive. Medic? Healer?
A medic would be an
Okay.
appropriate term. Um, you see as the assassin like falls, he kind of catches himself, uh, and gets on one knee, his good knee, and goes to stand up, and in one like long motion stands and lunges towards Zaken, and the strain that he puts on his leg is too much, and it folds in half,
Oh,
uh,
Oh.
and breaks the last little bit that was holding on from the deep cut. And he kind of spins and falls and rolls onto his stomach and tries to army crawl for a brief moment and then passes out.
okay.
Uh, Zaken has finally stopped rolling and has caught himself, and has buried his fingerless hand into his robe, uh, and is wailing and and saying something that sounds like gibberish over and over again.
Get him a medic too.
Uh, Gillum rushes up and meets you. Uh, Cassus walks down and kind of keeps his sword leveled at the assassin as he passes him, uh, checks him very quickly for weapons, and then moves on, sheathes his sword, and calls back, "I'll get the general and a medic."
Good. We need to be fast. He won't live long with an injury like that.
Uh, Gillum rushes up and and kind of kneels down next to Zaken and says, "Let me see your wound." And Zaken tries to kind of like roll away from him and stand up, and Gillum just puts a hand on his shoulder and pushes him back down and says, "I said, let me see your wound, priest."
I'll uh I'll say to Zaken, you should show these men some more respect. They just saved your life.
He, like, without saying anything, very slowly pulls his trembling hand out, and you see just a jagged cut um, across his knuckles and no fingers beyond the cut. Um, the assassin lies completely motionless, um, very rapidly pouring blood from his 3 wounds. If you want him to live, you may have
Tourniquet.
to yeah, stop the bleeding.
Um, these guys are knights, right? They know how to tourniquet.
I mean, you know how.
Oh, okay. Then I'll tourniquet him.
Okay.
Does he have a belt on?
Um, yeah, he does.
Take his belt.
His belt has like 2 sheaths for long knives, although the knives are not in their sheaths. Uh, and as you kind of like take the belt and wrap it around his leg, uh, you see that the other knife is up his other sleeve. The hilt is like slightly sticking out. Cassius must have missed it when he checked him very quickly, although the man is still unconscious.
Hmm. Yeah. I keep tourniqueting his wound.
Okay.
I'm trying to
You
keep
get
him alive as best possible.
the leg scene too. Um, he still has the shot in the arm and the shot in the ribs.
Um,
Although those are obviously much less life threatening.
you said he broke the arrows off. So are
Yeah,
the
broke
arrows
both
like
of them
still
off.
partially in him? Like the
Yep. The one in his ribs is like lost. That's in him, and there's none of it sticking out.
yeah.
The one in his arm, there's still a little bit of the shaft poking out. And then the head also came out the inside of his bicep, so you could push a little bit of the shaft on the outside and then pull the head through.
Uh, is this more so like a knife situation where removing it would be worse?
No, removing it's probably better. As long as you pull it all the way through. It's a broadhead arrow and it's already done its damage.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then I'll remove the arrow and bandage him up to the best of my ability.
Yep, you get the arrow out and wrap a bandage around his bicep. Like I said, the one to his ribs is that the whatever part of that arrow he broke off inside of him is floating around in there.
Yeah. I'll just bandage it over.
Um,
Call it a
okay.
day. I don't need him to live well. I just need him to live.
Ray, um, you the door to your townhouse like bursts open after a brief fiddling with the lock, and you see Circassus like run in, and he says, "General, it's urgent. We have two injured people. We need help. Medical."
All right, Randall. What are our options for discreet medical personnel at this hour?
Um, Good question. There are doctors in the city. Um, but if you wanted to be very discreet, you'd probably have to like go to someone you know. Um, which I think you probably know, like a field surgeon
Mm-hmm. A field surgeon is
from
probably
from
perfect
their
for what's
town.
going on.
Yeah.
All right, so this dude served with me. He probably knows the field surgeon, so I would. So like Ray would. It's the scene in the movie where like he picks up the neckerchief or the fuck the thing to wipe his mouth when he's eating, and like wipes his mouth, all posh like, and then would say, yeah, go find Sir what's his face, just calmly,
Okay.
and then Ray would just start walking to the temple.
Okay. Yeah, you send him to go find this field surgeon, and he runs and makes his way through the street, and you walk to the temple.
Mm-hmm.
When you arrive at the scene, Demeter, do you make any effort to relocate these people?
That depends. Am I given a security blanket like you get after like a traumatic event?
Nope.
Fuck. Okay. Yeah, we could have. We'll probably have moved them into, if available, like a nearby abandoned building, which I think is unlikely in this part
I
of the
mean,
city.
probably not any abandoned buildings, but you could at least get them into like an alleyway.
Okay, yeah, let's get them into an alley.
Okay. Um, you're probably gonna need help carrying the unconscious man. Um, so
I
as
have a couple of knights here, don't I?
You have one, yeah.
yeah, you have
I
one.
got one.
Yeah, Cassis left, but you still have Grays, and as Grays goes to help you lift the guy, uh, Zaken like stands up and tries to run. Uh, to which Grays promptly drops the assassin's leg and runs after Zaken and tackles him down on the street. Um, and Ray, this is the scene that you arrive to.
Mm.
We don't have any shackles. Where's the shackles?
Uh, yeah, you see Zaken running kind of towards you, although not on purpose. Uh, and Grays runs up behind him and tackles him low, uh, gets him down, and Zaken like tries to struggle away. Grays holds him and like wrestles him back down again, and then Zaken bites his hand, uh, to which Grays like pries his mouth open and then pulls his hand away and just closed fist clocks him as hard as he can.
I'm not
Uh,
gonna fault him for that one bit. A man bites another
and
man. That man's allowed to punch him.
yeah, Zaken like just head swings back from the hit, and he kind of rolls onto the ground and reaches up with his hand that still has fingers, and at this point you see the damage to the other hand, and holds his jaw, which uh, looks like he's in a lot of pain. Um, and Grays kind of flicks his hand a couple times and looks, and you see he's bleeding from where he was bit, but nothing serious. And he looks up at you and kind of gives like a half-assed like salute on his chest and says, "General, could you?" And he points at Zaken, and then he like gestures back toward the other
Yeah,
guy and goes over and gets the leg or
yeah,
leg and a half, and helps Demeter carry him.
yeah. Fine work. Let's get him out of here. Looks like a damn murder scene. And I'll try to scoop up Zaken.
Okay. Yeah, once you
Actually, like first
once
I'll
you
like put my boot on his hand. Like if we're done with all the biting.
he uh he looks up at you, um and you're someone he recognizes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to tell whether his recognition is relief or terror, maybe some combination of the two.
Yeah, he's
But
listening to what the fuck's going on, and I don't blame him. But we need to get these people off the fucking street now. So.
he gets up and follows your authority.
All right.
Um, after Cassis helps Demeter carry the assassin into the alleyway, he jogs back out and collects the severed leg,
Mm-hmm.
and brings that into the alleyway as well.
All right. Yeah, I would lead Zaken over and just like point like stay. And then I would turn to Crane and who's still with us, Cassis or Grays?
Oh no, Cassis is gone.
Graves is still with you. Cassis has gone to find the field surgeon.
Grays. Okay. So I'd say Grays is getting a field surgeon, and then I would turn back. How much of a murder scene do the steps of this fucking temple look like now?
They're pretty damn bloody.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
How? So it's only 8. How like is there a crowd? Or do we still have the cover of darkness? Like,
No, there's definitely not a crowd. It's possible that a person or two may have seen that something was happening. Um,
okay, all right.
and
Well,
like
unless we like,
run away as you probably would.
yeah,
Uh,
unless we like make direct eye contact with a witness, that's out of our control.
We could kill all the witnesses.
Yeah, just start slaughtering everyone. Um,
as uh, as Cassis now reaches you with the field surgeon, um, he he kind of like makes way for her to come in and inspect the wounded.
well, while
Um,
that's going on, I'd like motion back like this needs to be cleaned, and is there some place we could like draw water and just like I imagine if we just like throw enough
yeah,
water on the blood, it wouldn't be that bad, right?
yep, yeah, you could make urgent preparations to do some janitorial work.
Mm-hmm. I'd
Uh,
probably have Cassis do that because poor Grace has been sprinting over the whole goddamn city for the last 10 minutes.
Vice versa. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh fuck,
I
yeah,
think Grace will go do that.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, Cassis kind of
There's probably a well
sits down in
somewhere.
the alleyway and leans his back up against the building and kind of catches his breath
Yep.
and looks at the patients and he looks up at you and kind of points to the assassin and says, "Man moves like a demon."
Well, any man that would try to strike down a holy man in a house of God, or is God's plural? Whatever the fucking saying
Yeah,
would be.
yeah.
He may as well be, no?
He nods and says,
I
"A lot
missed.
of training."
Yeah, I was counting on that. Mr. Crane, what are the damages?
Well, for the time being, our assassin and his target are both alive. So I suppose I'd call it a mission success. But it won't do us any good if he bleeds out from all this damage. I mean, Sir Cassis almost cut him in half.
Cassis just gives a wave.
In any case, we should prioritize getting them treated and then moved to the discreet location.
Nondescript location number 7. So
All right.
the field surgeon is here. What's going on with her?
She kind of quickly pours alcohol on the wounds and gets them clean bandages beyond just the life-saving necessities that Demeter did. Um, and once she's bandaged up the assassin and got him stable, um, she turns to the priest and just kind of shakes her head and says, "Well, he'll never use this again." And his hand, still trembling, holds it out, uh, and she just kind of changes the bandages, puts clean bandages on it and alcohol, which makes him wince and whimper. And she says, "You're lucky this is all you got. Looks like your friend got much worse. He may not survive." And
Um,
Zaken kind of mutters under his breath, "The devil's not my friend."
I'll turn towards Zaken and I'll say, "Hey man, take it from me. Being maimed isn't the end of the world."
You lift up your eye patch and then wink with your.
He looks
He
up at
never
you and
lifts up his
says,
eye patch.
"Go
Ever.
to hell."
Charming. He's gonna make it real easy torturing him.
Jesus.
All right.
What? He was mean.
Do we get the thumbs up from the field surgeon at any point to move these guys?
Yeah. She suggests that you bring them back to her house where she can tend to them better.
And she's got some materials there. Okay.
Yep.
I will double back, and because I've seen this movie and I know what happens the next morning, somebody finds a fucking finger, and then people start asking questions. So I go to collect 3 fingers and close the door. And then I'll just help them out. I'll throw some more buckets of water. I go do that and let these 2 move them to her house.
Alright, yeah. You go and you find all the fingers, and
I give them to a
do
dog. I
the
give them to a
extra.
stray dog.
Nice.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I throw a couple
you
buckets of water if time still permits.
yeah. You and Grace clean up the murder scene, and
Alleged
it
murder
goes better
scene.
than you probably could have expected. You do see, as you and he are like just finally finishing up, and you get another look around. You see a woman on a balcony that seems to be watching you. Um,
How
and she
how literary? Like, is it General Ray down there throwing water? Or is it just some
no,
asshole with a
no,
hood?
it's just some people.
Okay,
Uh, yeah, no way she'd be able to tell who it is.
all right.
But this is the first like witness that you've actually seen. Like I said, it's conceivable that other people saw all this go down, but no one
Yeah,
stuck around. Um, other than she seems to have arrived later and is watching it.
yeah. No, this I think that is beyond our control realistically, unless you want to like start barging into people's houses and ordering
Yeah,
people to be quiet. So I double check that my hood is up in mysterious mode and keep and throw till we're satisfied that like there wasn't a horrible murder here. And then we'll go meet up with everyone else.
yeah. Yeah. You are satisfied that you've been as discreet as possible, and you go to meet them at the field surgeon's house,
Mm-hmm.
where everyone reconvenes. Uh, and I think we're gonna jump over to Ashley and Brett from that.
Okay.
Where we left you guys, you were in the palace still of House Roik, and Princess Nita had just given you a uh, very unhospitable or inhospitable, yeah, inhospitable uh, tour of the grounds, and kind of voiced some of her frustrations with what's going on. Um, and
Was the tour done? I remember her like stopping in like a hallway or something. And did she walk away?
yep, no, she hasn't shown you everything yet.
Oh, we were continuing to follow
She
her.
Yep, she had made like kind of a comment about how everything else is basically just the same, and seemed like maybe she didn't really want to show you everything, um, and had grown bored with it already.
I'm real sorry. Give me like 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna go grab a drink then. I'll be right back.
We did it, Cody.
Yeah, we stopped the assassination. It was the suspicious man kneeling at the temple.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what made the most sense. They wouldn't strike him in the day if they could get him at night.
I didn't realize the timeline of like the council meeting too. Like if there was
Mm-hmm.
any hope of still using him against us, like it had to happen tonight. Like I forgot that like they were like we'll reconvene for a vote tomorrow. I thought it was just like all a done deal.
You should bring the cassock to the thing.
The vote?
Yeah. Yeah.
How would that look exactly if he shows up maimed to the vote tomorrow?
Well, I mean, you tell them the truth. Obviously, it was an attempted assassination by an operative of House Garsaj, who tried to silence the man that they were using to influence politics in this region.
I think the
So
risk
walk.
there though is if it raises too many questions about the king dying to treachery versus natural causes, then that raises the whole do we open the secret will bullshit.
Yeah, but your king was a good king. It would never be anything bad.
Yeah, but like realistically, like he didn't write in his will give all my shit to my neighbor to the south. Like
Maybe he said give it to the poor.
it's probably like give it to my daughter or something. I don't know. It might even be fucking me, but
Ooh, wait. That would be kind of interesting. Wait a second, you may have just stumbled onto something. Yeah, if he gives it all to his daughter,
that's
that
just one possibility. Like it could be like anyone. It could be fucking anything. Like
it would probably be his daughter, right? And if it was, and if he it is determined that he died of treachery and all of his lands is given to his daughter, who was married to the king, this feels like a justification for the plot line we're trying to push through of getting her on the last seat.
again, that's like
A gamble?
that's a huge gamble, and also like so Ray, being the loyal servant he is, isn't comfortable just rolling the hard six to go back to our BSG days. Admittedly, Demeter's known Erdoshan's a hell of a lot longer, so he can probably voice whether or not Erdoshan's would want to go all in on that. And again, this is all like a like long like if then scenario. Like he could anything could be written in there.
Right.
Demeter
I mean,
might have the means to even just acquire it,
I've
giving
thought
it a
about that a lot. I
Man,
assume Randall would say no,
that's a
you cannot
conversation
acquire
we
it.
had specifically about Demeter Crane getting his hands on the secret wills of the court. That like exact thing we've talked about at length.
And I've thought about it actively, but I just assumed that he wouldn't allow that. Like
Anything's
I assumed
possible.
it's like buried in the ground, like under 60 feet of lead. It's constantly
Demeter
under
has
armed guard.
money and connections. He can get whatever he wants.
Yeah, and a grappling hook that actually works.
Yeah.
You successfully grappled a building tonight, Cody.
I did. Into
For,
it, not out of it, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this is so the reason why I have the conversation is because like going to the court and being and like slamming our hand on the desk and being like King Combe was behind this. That puts all that shit in motion. That might eventually end with that shit being cracked open.
Mm-hmm.
Although no, yeah, it would the marriage wouldn't make a difference because if it was treachery.
What I'm saying is that when the upcoming court happens, House Garsage is gonna come for us. We have to come for them first. Preemptive fire. We're preefing on them. Pre-fire around the corner. Get House Garsage right where it hurts. Consider it. This is your domain, the domain of the politics of the desert. But to get some, because I mean, this, to be frank, it's like it's a now or never situation. This man is dead tomorrow night. if he lives that long.
Oh, Zaken.
Yeah. No, not Zaken. Zaken's fine.
Oh, I just
The
assumed you were going to
assassin.
torture the assassin to death. I think that's just he's
No,
your plaything now.
No, I was gonna torture him a little bit tonight, and then I was gonna hand him over to you as a political pawn.
Just a little bit of torture.
No, it's
Just a
this.
skosh of torture.
No, this like prisoners with intel. That they're yours. That's the spy master's game.
But we need him to influence internal politics of this region.
What does that mean? Like
The revolution starts now.
with the captured assassin? What are you even suggesting?
Well, if we're gonna say that,
Like real talk, like anyone that was like sent to do what he was sent to do is obviously already like, are like it's already like they've had the Mission Impossible. Like if you're captured or killed, will disavow all knowledge. Like that's the score. So like you're like that's it. You got caught. You are officially like just a crazy homeless man to us now. So it's totally between us and him. There is no like sending him back or any bullshit like that. So it's really just a matter of how much can you get out of him before you kill him, if anything at all. Or just let him rot in a dungeon forever. Like I don't really think there's an in between with a guy like this.
I'm not saying we put him on trial, but I'm saying
What the fuck are you saying? We like use him to start a revolution,
no. Okay, that was a bit. That was a
or like
joke.
testify?
No,
Like he's not gonna testify.
no, of course he isn't going to testify. But if we bring, that's why I said we bring Zaken, the man who worked to influence the politics of this region for House Garsaj, that was an attempted assassin target by this agent of House Garsaj. I feel like it's at least something worth bringing up. I feel like that wouldn't be weird. Sure, it may bring into question the
Zaken wouldn't testify that. He wouldn't like go up and perjure himself, like kind of like the same way that the Chancellor
we
wouldn't.
can make him. I mean, it's not perjure, it's true. You mean he already perjured and he won't come back on it? I guess he also said the truth. Weird.
Yeah, that's why this
But
is also difficult because, and also like we still don't know 100% that the king just died naturally. Like that's still also totally out in the wind.
Isn't the
right. But we don't have
prince?
to push that narrative.
Is
And
the
why would anyone else push that narrative?
is the queen with you guys?
No,
No.
She's in
she's in
Outer
the capital.
Chancellorville.
We left her.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she
Yeah,
came with you.
she and Jeff had gone up to Atun together, and then they came back, and then Jeff went back to Atun with Cody.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And Queen Iso is still at Mount Kimmon.
Roger.
I think we just sit on him like through everything, Cody, and then we'll let.
I don't know. That feels like a waste.
Like
Otherwise, why did we save his life? Besides the fact that murdering him would make it look like we did.
if he disappears overnight, it just damns literally everything we've tried to do over the last 2 days. If he's murdered
that's
overnight.
why I'm saying we use him. We utilize him now.
That's why our position was so fucking difficult. Because like if he like comes and testifies or whatever, it starts the conversation of treachery with with what's his face's death. King Gulson's death.
Right, sure, it starts a conversation, but we already have two people vouching that we have the medical man who declared his death saying, yeah, he died. I'm assuming he did, some sort of any amount of doctor work and determined, yeah, he just died natural
Well,
causes.
what is the exact thing that he testifies? Like, because like you said, like it was the truth. Like, if the actual like recorded truth is he died naturally the day before the wedding, then like what is he testifying against House Garzash specifically?
He is testifying that he was influenced by an operative House Garsaj to say things that would affect the internal politics of this region.
But those things were already the truth.
That doesn't matter. The truth is relative.
Oh, wait, no, it's
They
the
sent
truth.
an
No,
operative here.
hold on. I'm just confusing myself because of this fucking storyline. So the truth that he's pressured to say, while it was actually the truth, you and I have manipulated into being a lie, and that he died the next day.
Yeah, we are the liars. So we
Yes.
have to push our narrative. Otherwise, we're sitting here fucked.
Okay.
I
So
mean, we're already kind of there.
okay.
But
So I think
that
I'm actually with
makes
you
this-
now, because I keep fucking forgetting like who died when and who lied and who told the
Yeah.
truth. So he would basically testify that the reason he made a big stink the day before was because House Karzash came and said like, "Yo, the king died the next day. Go tell him."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yes, sir." And then he went and did it. Okay, I think I'm
And then,
actually with you on this.
yeah. And then he came back
It's
on
been
it.
fucking
and-
3 weeks, and this fucking okay. All right, but we will cross this bridge when we come back to us. I believe we're with
Right.
Brett and Ashley now.
Correct.
Who's muted?
Huh?
He'll never testify that though. Like this dude's like
We
he's
can-
such a goody
we can
two
convince
shoes.
him. We can convince him. I mean, he's not lying. Everything we're asking him to say is still the truth. Right? Yeah. We haven't asked him to
Except
lie.
the part where we're like
We have lied.
does he know for sure that the king actually died the next day? Or was it just like the chancellor that like came and confided in him?
I think it was just that the chancellor came and confided in him. Unless the king was assassinated, and he knows. Which in this case would mean that he was assassinated by the Garsash kingdom, which would be kind of fucked.
How does this align with the chancellor's testimony? I guess the narrative would be that the House Garzash got to both of them separately.
We could do that, yeah.
Because
that
the
works.
Chancellor had the balls to go against House Karzash, and then in our fucking narrative, the Zaken didn't, and he like doubled down and tried to like stop them in court, and then they came to punish. Yeah, and okay, yeah, and then like when they realized that the ship had sailed, they went to kill him, so that's why we stopped.
Right.
Okay,
And I
okay.
assume that these people
God
would
damn
trust
it!
enough-
I fucking hate this. All right, this all makes sense. All right.
They wouldn't think that you, General Ray, the man of such important and fucking nobility, would go and extort this man and cut off his fingers to get him to tell a lie in court. I imagine with your character being the way he is, that would be like so wild to assume.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think we're I think we finally got this to the bottom of this. I fucking hate this. Okay. Someone should message Ashley.
She said that she needed 5 minutes for some reason.
Yeah, but it was a little longer than 5 minutes ago.
You message her.
It's 5 minutes in Ashley time.
She'll
You're the
listen to
messenger.
Randall. She'll listen to Randall.
Yeah, I'll message her.
Oh.
Is General Ray like dark skin?
No. Just Google Liv Schreiber. Unless it's like normal for everyone in the desert to be like tan
I
or
was
something.
wondering if it was canonical that everyone from the desert was like slightly tanner.
No,
Darker.
I mean they're like they're probably a little bit suntanned, but it's not like they have like brown or black skin.
Yeah, I think like we're all just white people, but like it stands to reason. Like everybody who just lives in like Arizona is probably like a little more tan. It could also be like a class thing too, where like if you're a laborer out in the sun all day, you're all tan and shit. But like if you're nobility, you have reason to be indoors a lot of the time.
I guess we're not that far from each other, right? Yeah, we're
It's like a
100
3 days
miles
horse
away.
ride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're like 130 miles away.
People people aren't also like going around in the desert with their shirts off, tanning. Like
Yeah, I just wasn't sure
they
if we're
cover
dealing
up
with
pretty significantly.
people of European
And
descent color,
they
like
what's the thing too, right?
Native American color.
It's not like they like evolved in this environment over thousands of years to develop
Yeah,
different pigment. Like it's
that's what I figured. Okay.
um, yeah.
Do you want to keep going with Ray and Demeter?
Um no, I think if Ashley's back, we're gonna go ahead and jump to that.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Um so yeah, I think we left off with Nita kind of dropping the not so subtle hint that she was gonna just kind of fuck off and leave you guys to fend for yourselves and neglect her duties to show you around. Um, and she kind of after a little bit of a pause says, "So, if you need anything, there are literally hundreds of servants." And she shrugs and says, "Make yourselves at home." And she begins to walk away.
Did you show us where our rooms are?
No.
You didn't show us where our rooms are.
She kind of like stops and turns on her heel and looks at you and says, "Well, uh, Sir Virus, you can sleep wherever you want." And she walks away.
Don't follow her to her quarters, Brett.
Yeah, I know. That's the first thing that came to my
Don't.
mind.
This will be fine.
Well, shall we go look around?
I suppose so.
Once Nita's out of earshot, Gwen says, "I suppose not too many people like her."
Maybe. She could just be putting on a front. Or perhaps she's just upset with the duty that her father delegated her. I'm sure she's quite privileged.
Do you guys roam around and explore, or what do you do?
Roam around and explore.
Nice. Um, after a little while of just wandering around the palace and looking at things, a uh, a man finds you. I gotta find the token. One sec.
No.
Here it is. Uh, this man uh, finds you wandering the halls, and he's dressed in like a long, thin, uh, kind of very lightweight robe um, that has the crest of a ship and a lightning bolt embroidered into it with gold thread. Um, and he has a like very broad sash around his waist that has like a decorative short sword in a scabbard hanging off of it. And he sees you and says, "Oh, you must be our visitors."
Do I know this guy?
You do not. You've never seen him in court. He steps forward and gives a low bow and says, "My name's Halo. It seems your guide has left you unattended.
She
Allow me to
has.
help you."
Was it happenstance that we wandered into each other, or did you expect this to happen?
When I found the princess alone, I went looking for you.
I see. Is she always like that?
More often than her father would care to let people know, yes.
I see. Well, either way, it really doesn't bother us that much. Just enjoying the sights that your kingdom has to offer is plenty enjoyable.
Of course. Come, I'll show you where you're to stay. It's quite beautiful.
Yeah, follow.
And he leads you all three through the palace and out a wide exit at the back, which goes out into a courtyard that overlooks the lake. Um, and you see that there's a long, all white, like alabaster uh, pier that extends out onto the lake. And at the end of this pier, there is wide, um, a wide kind of landing. Uh, and on that landing, there's a circular, uh, very Grecian-looking, um, circular white house with green ivy growing up all around it. And he gestures to it and says, "You'll be staying in the lake house."
She nods and thanks him.
He says, "Oh, no thanks is required. Come, I'll show it to you." And he leads you down the pier, and he uses a small silver key to unlock the lake house, and throws the doors open, and it is absolutely beautiful. Um, Inside, there's a single table that's round. Almost everything in here is either white stone or alabaster or wood painted white. The only thing not white are the curtains, all of which are a deep blue. Um, and he shows you all of the rooms in the lake house are divided with uh, screens um, that are just kind of freestanding and can be collapsed or expanded as needed. And he kind of pushes a screen aside and shows
Japanese
you,
style?
sort of, although they're not like part of the structure, they're just freestanding, like pieces of furniture, basically. Just stand-up screens. Pushes the screen aside and shows you that there's a big tub that like goes down and seems to actually like go down below the pier, and you step down into basically like the lake in a tub, and it just has like plugs in the side of it that fill it from the lake. And then there's a through the next screen there's a huge canopy bed, and then another screen over there's a smaller but still pretty large and luxurious bed. um, he kind of shows everything to you and says, "There's also a stove to keep the place warm and heated, but you shouldn't need that. It's the middle of the summer. It can get somewhat hot out here, so if you need to keep the doors open, feel free to do that as well. No one will disturb you." Is the house to your liking, Princess?
Of course, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Good. Well, supper's not for a few hours. You're free to roam alone if you want, or if you'd like a guide, one that won't abandon you, I'm free in about an hour. I can come back and check on you then if you like.
Perfect, thank you.
Of course. He gives the princess a bow, and then turns to Virus and gives him a Dulcan salute, which is a little bit unusual. Not very customary for people to render those kinds of honors across borders. Um, and then he excuses himself and walks back down the pier to the palace. Wen kind of turns around and looks at everything and takes it all in and says, "I'm worried to even breathe on it. Fear I'll get it all dirty."
Please, it's meant to be enjoyed. From the looks of it, it doesn't look like it's used very often.
She chuckles and says, "It's meant to be enjoyed by you two."
You're in our company. You might as
Yes,
well
well,
make use of it. You are the preferred handmaiden, after all.
ah, yes. How could I forget? And she goes over and kind of pushes pushes Natra on the shoulder a little bit and says, "Can I get you anything?"
I should be fine for now. Perhaps you should get acquainted with the servants' quarters and the kitchens just in case I need you for something. Perhaps
She nods.
take a little time. It's been a long travel.
She gives you a warm smile and says, "Thank you. I'll be back tonight."
She nods.
She leaves.
I guess I turn to Natra. Are you feeling all right? I understand that the past couple of days have been a bit traumatic.
It is of little consequence.
You have a stronger stomach than I expected, Princess. It's not easy to see men dismembered, especially when they were assaulting you. You kept a cool head. That's admirable.
There are times to worry about such things, and times to focus on the road ahead. I don't believe I have the time or quite, frankly, the means to focus on that at the minute.
I see. And what are you focusing on currently?
Diplomacy.
Are you planning to meet with the princess again? Or perhaps the king?
There's something about the princess. She is unusual, and I cannot quite tell yet whether her father lets her get away with her particular views or whether he doesn't. And she's pushed through anyways. It should be unique to see.
Either way, it's a bit curious that the son wasn't present at the to greet you on your arrival, don't you think?
Oh, he's quite young. I wouldn't take too much offense to that.
It's not offense, it's just curiosity. Perhaps the king favors him so much so that the princess harbors ill will towards him. I think Vera shrugs at that, and he kind of like turns around and like looks out to the sea and says, "I don't know. I also picked up on her strange behaviors. I can't imagine treating royalty like that, especially from a country that's neighbors your own."
I'm quite unsure of what to think so far. We'll have to see what the rest of them are like. Perhaps when time for dinner comes, we will see more of the court.
Is there anything you would like me to do?
She thinks a moment and then says, I don't much believe my life is threatened here. Why don't you meet with some of the knights? Get an idea for what their opinion is on their king. They will put up a front, and they will, of course, always lay the praise. But it would be curious to see if this unique interaction with the princess is a normal occurrence and what that means.
I think Virus nods and says, what time of day is it? It's early ish, midday.
It's maybe like 1 p.m. You've got quite a while before dinner.
I think Virus nods and says, "If you don't mind, I'll step out. I'd like to scope the place out a little bit. Will you be staying here?"
I will be.
And I believe, was that guy's name Sir Halo?
You didn't
H.
get his title, but yes, it is Halo.
Based on what he was wearing, it looked aristocratic, at least, right? Or
Yeah,
like
but
maybe like a
also
station similar.
maybe militant. He was armed, but
Mhm.
he wasn't wearing armor or anything. And his robe looked pretty expensive and like it was made out of kind of an exotic material.
And it had a boat with a lightning strike through it.
Yep. Yep.
And have I seen that anywhere else, like maybe at the court?
Um, you have not seen that crest, although for him to have a crest at all means he is noble. So
Right.
he's at the very least a knight,
Mhm.
might be a lord.
Gotcha. So I think Virus would say, and I think Halo will be returning in about an hour. Would you like me to be here for that, just in case? Or do you think you'll be fine?
Shouldn't be necessary.
I nod and say, I'll return before supper if you wish for me to attend that with you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I give her a bow, and then I take my leave.
Okay. Where do you want to go?
I want to seek out the training quarters where they train their duelists, preferably.
Okay. um, you go. It's a funny coincidence. Yeah, you go looking for that. Maybe ask like a servant or somebody that you see.
Yeah, like the first
Um,
person that I see that comes on my way, I'll ask them.
and when you find in the you leave the palace and you walk a little ways through the city. Um, although it's like the city outskirts, the palace is by no means in the middle of the city. Uh, you walk a little ways through like the city outskirts over to the main garrison here. Um, and out in the courtyard of the garrison, you see a couple of soldiers training, and watching over them with a goblet in hand, you see Halo again.
Of course. How long did it take to get here?
Maybe 20 minutes.
And he said he'd be back in an hour, so he was going to be here for 20 minutes.
Sounds like it.
That's now does to Brett that sounds strange. Is he just watching casually, or is he like actively like teaching?
It looks like he's just watching as you walk up, but then as you come up, you hear him say, "No, no, higher. Come on. Their swords are heavier than ours. We'll go right through that guard."
What sort of? Oh, wait. Are they training with their own swords, or are they training with another region's sword? Can I tell?
They're training with their own weaponry.
I walk up to him. Do
He
you have
looks over
another?
his shoulder as he hears you stepping up, and he sees you and says, "Cerberus, good of you to join us."
Halo. I don't believe I caught your title. Forgive me.
He chuckles a little bit and says, "It's it's Lord at the moment."
At the moment, have big things planned?
Hmm. He just kind of makes a little humming sound under his breath. Goes, "Hmm," and shakes his head, takes a drink, and says, "Not really something you can plan for. Promotions of nobility are up to the king. They aren't exactly something we ask for." And he steps over and takes another goblet off of the decorative platter next to him and pours something from a pitcher into it and hands it to you
I'll take
and
the goblet.
says, "It's a tea we make here. It's quite good. Although be careful, it's strong. It'll knock you off your feet. Drink too much. A bit like alcohol, but more." And he trails off for a second and says, "Stimulating." And he smiles and takes another sip. Says, "Sip it slowly. Breathe plenty."
Right. I'll smell it first.
Um, Smells vaguely fungal.
Okay. I'll take a sip.
Okay. Has a strange taste, but not unpleasant.
Okay. Um, I'll take a sip, and then I'll look towards the fighters that are training. Can I tell, based on what he said before, what region they're planning to train against, or what region they are training for?
That's a good question. He mentioned that
Heavier.
they use heavier blades. Um, it looks like the swords that they're fighting with are just sort of classic medieval longswords. Two-handed weapon,
Mm.
about 36-inch to a 44-inch blade. Uh, Not a very thick blade, but still a pretty heavy sword. So for them to say that, the swords that they're expecting to face are heavier, um, that actually kind of narrows out most places. Although Dulcan blades are notoriously very heavy. Um, Even their short swords, like the Cincadeus you carry, have pretty broad and heavy blades. And then the Dulcan sabers, which are like a large two-handed curved sword, which is what most of the both infantry and cavalry carry, um, are very heavy swords. Very, very heavy.
And so it would make a lot of sense for them to train particularly against us because they feud with us quite a bit over land and during duels, right?
Yep.
Right. I take out my Cincadeus and I say, "Would your men like to train with this? It might be more realistic."
He looks at it and a broad smile creeps across his face. He takes another sip of his tea and says, "Do you train with our weapons?"
I have trained with every blade in the kingdom. What do you think of my protege? You think I would let him slack?
Hmm. Altman Kellum. He's a good fighter, that one. You've trained him well. I suspect he has a lot of fights ahead of him.
I
So
suspect
many
so too.
people have been eagerly awaiting your departure from the court to throw their fodder back in the pits against someone else. I think they'll be disappointed, though. I've seen Callum fight. He's almost your equal in every way.
He's very close. I do think that most of the kingdoms will be disappointed, especially if they plan on sending their best against him.
He
Mm.
chuckles again and says, "Yeah,
You said that you've seen him fight, but I haven't seen you at the court.
no, no." But then he's never fought in the court, has he?
He hasn't, but has he attended the court with me?
Yeah,
So can I assume that he would still train there? Maybe would that make sense?
maybe, yeah. Although probably not, to be honest.
Really?
Just because there wouldn't really be much of a place to do that.
Okay.
Um, if he's seen Altman fight, he probably had to be at your dojo,
And I haven't seen this guy before.
in the Dawkins. You don't remember or recognize him now.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'll just say, you mentioned that you've seen Callum fight. Mm, he hasn't fought, to my knowledge, at the court, unless it was without my knowledge. Can I assume that you've perhaps visited my dojo?
I have.
On an unfortunate day that I wasn't there, no less.
He smiles and says, "You were there.
I
I was
was.
carrying one of those, though." And he points at the Cincadeus and says, "I lived nearby. I was a knight then." Uh,
You were a knight for Adderchance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of his bannermen, a cavalry knight.
Have I heard any rumors about this? This seems like something that would kind of spread throughout the city.
You have not heard any rumors about this.
Gotcha. Okay. And Addershance
He,
hasn't talked about this at all?
nope. He
Okay.
continues on and says, I actually rode across the Culser Bridge when we retook Dolehold 30 years ago. When at the time Prince Aaron led the flank attack at the beach. I rode with combined Dalkin and Galston cavalry, which I suppose is going to ride again now, seeing as how you've united.
And if you don't mind me prying a bit, why did you leave? I take another sip from the drink.
I lost someone close to me. I asked King Addershance if I could take my leave from the kingdom, go traveling. He released me from my oath to him. 10 years later or so, I found myself here. Swore another oath.
By King Addershance, he means Aaron's father, I'm guessing? Or was Aaron king?
If it was 10 years ago, Aaron would have been the king.
Gotcha. Well, 10 years ago, he swore to this king, right? Roik? So he's been a part of House.
Oh, sorry, I messed that up. He left 10 years ago, and then he's more recently been here.
Gotcha.
So he would have seen you and Altman fight like early in your career.
Gotcha.
And I think I've told you this already, but Altman has basically been with you since the beginning. He's been your training partner for like 10 years.
Okay, and he's 10 years younger than me?
No, he's actually the same age as you.
Okay, so he's like 30-ish.
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay, so just to make
The
sure.
only reason that he wasn't the duelist was just because you're a bit better than him. But he's been with you the whole time.
Okay, just to make sure I have this right, he lost someone important to him. I don't know who. He then got released 10 years ago, and then at some point in that 10 years, he has sworn an oath to King Lorik.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
correct.
Gotcha. Perfect. Okay, so I think I'll say, I'm sorry for your loss, but it still piques my interest that you would choose another kingdom over Adderchance.
I enjoy the lake. It's peaceful. The whole kingdom's peaceful, really. House Roik has little drive for war, little ambition to rule. It suits me in my old age. He smiles again. Says, how do you like your tea?
It's interesting.
Yeah. Drink a little more and things get real interesting.
I can see why you like it. But I'm strangely interested because I figured that House Roik would actually have quite a bit of conflict, being neighbors with Gazash. And he does have a history of being rivals somewhat with Atterchance. I
Mm.
figured that there would be plenty of turmoil for you to get involved with. But
He
Lork,
shakes
our
his head
King
and
Lork doesn't
says,
force it upon
yeah, he shakes his head and says, I'm a man of violence, and there's little violence to be done for King Lorik. He settles most things with his pocketbook, and that's just as well for me. I prefer it.
you. I see.
As
And
for House Garzash, though, you're right. They press at our borders. They make ridiculous demands. They test their luck often. I suspect if there is to be violence, it'll be on the southern border, not the northern one.
Virus nods and says, as I'm sure word has traveled to you, we actually just got done visiting the Garzash family. I had the pleasure of meeting Prince Jax. Have you traded words with him?
I've never met him, no, but I understand your stay there wasn't all pleasurable.
No, it wasn't.
Sir Olean told me about a struggle in which a member of your company stood off against 4 knights and cut them all down. Between you and me, I think anyone who knows you doesn't think that it was someone else aboard your ship that did that.
Between you and me, it's probably best that the blame be put on me. I wouldn't want anyone else harboring this immense amount of guilt that I'm feeling. Protecting my princess.
Mm. He nods and says, they try to take her? A ransom?
That is what I'm guessing.
It's a bold move. Think King Combe is becoming desperate. Or he's just warmongering. Remains to be seen.
It's my understanding that he's quite a bit calculating despite his needless aggression. Surely he has an endgame planned. I'd like to think that it's more thought out than just spur of the moment, taking Princess Natra and holding her for ransom. But I think Varys would shrug and say, everything that he set up was a little bit mm, pathetic, very obvious.
Well, however detailed his plans for the war may be, it doesn't take a very detailed plan to start one. You just do something heinous and unforgivable. Sounds to me like that's what he tried.
Yes, but I'm also under the impression that he's holding quite a bit of a grudge, even more so than usual, towards the recent marriage between the Dawkins and the what's the at
Ghosts.
Gauls and the Dawkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, the recent marriage between our lands.
Yeah. Everyone seems to take a whole lot of offense to that.
If there's one thing I can give credit to Adderchance for, it's pushing buttons. I
Mm.
quite like him for it. But I suppose that you might take a little bit of an issue with it. I can see why you would like Lorik a little bit more.
He shakes his head and says, I don't like any of them. But if I'm gonna serve one, I'd rather serve one that keeps me home than one that sends me out.
You and I think quite a bit alike, surprisingly. Hmm. It was a pleasure meeting you. Are you planning to meet back up with Princess Natra?
He looks like he thinks back to the promise that he made and realizes he's spent longer here than he intended and says, I should go check on her, I suppose, shouldn't I?
I think she is expecting you.
Thank you for speaking with me, Virus.
It's my pleasure. I actually came here to perhaps train with your fighters a little bit, but I seem to have got caught up in conversation with you.
Well, the mothers know they could use the help.
I think I'd walk with him a little ways until our paths diverge.
Okay.
I'd like to spend some time in the palace.
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure if you.
you walk back with him to the palace, and as you walk through, uh, you see Nita again, and when she sees you and Halo, she says, "Lord Halo, I see you've found one of your countrymen." And he smiles to her and says, "May the moon bless you, princess." And she says, "The moon doesn't. Never mind." Cerberus,
Princess,
how are you liking it here?
I'm quite enjoying it. The views are lovely. I was actually thinking about going to spend some time at the lake. Would you like to join me?
She raises an eyebrow and seems surprised that you said that. And then she says, "Join you for what?"
Perhaps some fishing? Exchanging of words.
"Fishing."
Do you not like
"Fishing?
fishing?
I've never fished."
Well, then let's go. Excellent opportunity to learn.
She shrugs and says, "Sure. I'll learn fishing from a foreign knight, I suppose." Halo says, "Well, I'll leave the two of you to it then. I'll go check on Princess Natra."
I give him a bow.
Nita says, "Maybe she'll want to go fishing too. Get her little hands dirty."
She
And
might.
Halo looks a little bit upset with the comment. It says, "Enjoy your diversions, princess." And she says, "You enjoy yours. Don't divert her too hard, though." And he just shakes his head and seems very frustrated with her and leaves. After he's out of earshot, she says, "Old creep.
You don't like him.
I can't stand the way he talks. A little breathy and ugh."
Is it really that much worse than most of the other aristocrats?
Well, he's not an aristocrat. He's a fucking lord.
They're all the same to commoners.
He's like some old war hero or something.
Yes, he's I suppose he's quite renowned. However, I've not heard of him.
Hmm.
Apparently, he's visited my dojo back in the Dawkins.
Yeah, well, everyone around here calls him the one-lunged knight. He's not a knight anymore, but that was his nickname.
He seems to enjoy his post and his duties that your father has assigned him with.
Huh. Duties. He doesn't even do anything. He just walks around and acts all creepy.
I beg my pardon, Princess, but that doesn't sound too dissimilar to what you do.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm royalty. I get to do whatever the fuck I want.
I
Thanks
suppose
for
so.
noticing, though. Do I really seem creepy to you?
A tidbit.
Yeah.
But
Is it the smile or
I suppose it's the utter lack of interest
mm,
in pretty much everything. But maybe
well,
we
there
can
are
draw an
really
interest
things
out of
that
you.
aren't interesting.
Then what is interesting to you?
She shrugs and says, I don't know, maybe fishing. Let's find out.
Let's. Would you prefer doing it from a pier or from the boat?
Hmm. Boat.
I nod and say, where's the nicest boat that we can rent?
Rent.
Or own?
What do I look like to you?
A brat. Now lead the way.
Oh, a brat, huh? She starts leading the way and says, you know what you look like?
The best duelist in the West?
Well, thanks for making my point, but I was gonna say a guy who takes himself too seriously.
I suppose I have to. I've had to fight to survive my entire life.
Yeah, well, me too.
Perhaps we could teach each other something. You can show me how to relax a bit, and I can show you how to fish.
She chuckles and shakes her head and says, ah, there's the boat.
Okay, what kind of boat is it? Like extremely
Uh,
extravagant?
it's it's a very nice, very well-made rowboat. It has like a fancy like mermaid head on it,
Oh, okay.
like a figurehead of a mermaid.
Sure. I get in the boat first and offer her my hand to assist her in getting in.
She takes your hand.
Okay, I help her in, and I say, would you like to do the rowing, or would you like me to?
She says, well, I wouldn't want to emasculate you. We'll let you row.
Does it look like I'm easily emasculated? I am offering, after all. I'll row us out there, and you can row us back. How about that?
We'll see.
I nod, and I'll row us out to somewhere. And I'll say, do you know of any good spots?
What makes it a good spot?
Nice fish that we can actually keep and eat. We don't want trash.
Well, you can eat anything in the lake.
No? Oh, wait, what did she say?
She says, you can eat anything in the lake.
And they're all good?
Sure.
You're not picky?
She smirks and shakes her head and says, I don't know anything about fish.
Surely you
But
know how
in
they taste.
general, yes, I'm very picky.
So which one is your favorite?
Mm.
That's what we'll seek out.
She looks she looks over the side, looks in the water, and she points at one and says, how about that one?
Okay. I'm guessing we have rods.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
No, you came out here without rods.
I was thinking like spear fishing. I don't know. What it
I
was.
wouldn't put it past your dumb ass. Like,
Yeah,
all right, I
that's what
draw my
was-
glaive and I
Yeah,
start.
I draw my glaive and I skewer it. Here you go, princess. Yeah, I get the rods ready and say, if that's the one you want, you saw where it went, right?
She leans back and crosses her legs and puts her hands behind her head and says, "Mm-hmm."
What, you want me to cast it for you?
Yeah.
That's a bit boring. I suppose I'll do it this one time, though, so you can learn. I cast it for her.
She watches you.
And then I cast my own in the opposite direction. And now we wait.
Uh-huh.
I guess we should have brought drinks.
She just stares at you. Says, "Uh-huh."
Tell me, are you a fan of that tea drink that Lord Halo partakes in?
She chuckles and says, "Do you have that?"
2 sips.
Probably won't hit you then. You look a little heavy.
I'm guessing that he sips on it all day.
Yep.
And do you think that that is cause for the creepiness? Or was he creepy before?
Don't know.
Tell me, princess. Do you hold grudge against your father?
Yep.
And your brother, I'm guessing?
She looks caught off guard by that question and then says, "No, my brother's a kid. I don't hold a grudge against him."
So at what age will you start holding a grudge against him?
Whatever age he becomes a dick like everyone else.
I see. And Randall, did she mention before about traveling last session? Was she interested in that? Or is that someone else?
I don't think she mentioned traveling.
Okay. And say, are you locked to this kingdom? Your father won't let you travel? You seem like someone that's generally wants to experience things. And you're bored cooped up here all day.
My father wants me to marry, so he fills my schedule with suitors.
And they're all utterly disinteresting.
She lets a very long pause pass and then says, "They're all not what I want."
I smile at her and say, even Prince Jax.
You know, I met him once.
Only once?
Uh-huh. Everyone says he's the handsomest man in the West. It's completely true, of course, but I hate him.
Yes, I don't think the women that I'm traveling with appreciated him very much either.
Why should they? He's a bastard.
Is he?
Well, not literally, but yeah, he's a bastard.
He gave a air of duplicity when we were among him, I must admit. He spoke pleasant words, but some of them were tough to believe.
Well, spend time with royals, you'll hear nothing else. They all do it. It's their language.
So, you're not interested in Jax, and I'm guessing you're not interested in any of the other suitors.
Nope, not one bit.
Is there something that they're lacking?
She thinks for a second and kind of like gazes off over the lake and says, um, have you ever cut into a steak and found it was only bone and fat?
So it's missing the substance.
Yeah, I was gonna say the meat, but
Forgive me for prying too much, but I think that you and Natra can benefit each other quite a bit.
no, so
I think explaining each other's worlds will help you realize certain things. King Atashance isn't necessarily pushing her yet to get married. And I think that she's taking that for granted. I would actually appreciate it quite a bit if you let her know the heartaches that women of royalty would actually have to go through.
you want me to tell little princess nothing how lucky she is?
A bit. I think it could help build character.
Yeah. Is she a brat too?
I don't believe so. I haven't spent too much
Oh,
time.
so she's better than me.
I never said I disliked brats. They're a little bit annoying, but they're not looked down upon.
She thinks for a second and then says, my father would swallow his own tongue and shit it out if he heard you talk to me like this.
Yes, I'd figure as much, but I somewhat imagined that you might appreciate it.
Yeah, I guess in some fucked up way I do, huh?
It's nice being treated like a normal person.
She chuckles and says, so is this what normal people do?
Actually, yes. They sit around fishing, drinking, and shooting the shit.
What else do they do?
They work for a living to make their kings rich and to
What
benefit their king.
else do they do?
Absolutely nothing. Their lives are worthless beyond that.
Hmm.
Mine was worthless before I became a duelist. My father's was worthless before he became the greatest blacksmith in the Dawkins. so on and so forth. We all find our use for the kingdom, and that's what we are used for until we die.
And what should I be used for?
Your father wants to use you as political leverage, but I think that you should seek your own path. You are your own person, after all. And you are in a slightly unique position, one of a little bit more privilege than most. And I think that you and Natra could end up getting along quite well. And besides, it might be nice having a friend outside the kingdom. It could give you reason to, leave from time to time. Visit other countries.
She slowly nods and then says, "All right, Knight. I'll talk to her."
Veer smiles. I knew you would enjoy fishing. You just have to try new things, princess.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm actually fishing yet or not, but I'm pretty sure fishing feels like. And then she like is about to finish her sentence when your pole like lurches and bows forward.
Go on, reel it in. I hand her the pole.
She says, What do I?" And she like slowly starts pulling on the line. It's just like this.
No, reel.
I don't think they have reels.
Do they not? Then pull.
Like that's a pretty modern thing. Okay, yeah.
It's just like a
She,
string loop through the end of the rod, and that's it.
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
she pulls and says, "What do I do with all the extra string? Do I just?" It's
Just yank. Put your back
she
into it,
pulls
princess.
and says, "Well, what kind of fish is it? How do I know which way it swims?
You can
Do
feel it
different
tugging
things?
against the line.
Do different fish swim different ways?"
Not if you catch it.
She keeps pulling and says, "Well, how long is it? Oh shit, that's him!" And she pulls and the fish comes up out of the water. She like reaches forward and goes to grab it, and she tumbles out of the boat.
Oh no.
What?
it's Frodo and
And
Mr.
drown.
Sam. Yeah, she can't swim.
She doesn't know how to swim.
The
She
fish
drowns
starts.
straight to the bottom.
And then Vera
She-
starts rowing back to the shore.
Just as expected. Terrible acting.
Send word to Mr. Crane. Mission accomplished.
I'm making an enemy out of
No.
all the kingdoms.
after
It's not like
After about
Smeagol, right?
2
Where it's just pulling her around under the water.
after about 2 seconds, her head comes up, and she kind of sputters and says, "What the?"
Wait, is the fish still in the boat?
Get the fish!
No, it was like out on the rod.
Okay, gotcha.
It probably got away.
Uh,
She gets up and sputters and like puts a hand on the side of the boat and says, "What the
Yeah.
fuck? Why didn't you hold me?"
I help her up and say, "You didn't ask. I thought you wanted to do
Well,
it alone."
Be careful, I'm gonna capsize the boat. Just sit on that
I
side.
have
and
weight to
counterbalance it.
correctly. Don't worry about it. Just get
Well,
in the boat.
It feels like it's. I can get it myself.
You couldn't get the fish by yourself.
Well, you were supposed to hold me. She
You
gets
didn't
up in the
ask.
boat. Says,
We should probably get you back to shore. Don't want you catching a cold.
It's not that cold. Put your hand in it.
Yes, but soaking wet, the winds brushing against you, you'll catch a cold.
I'm fine.
You're
God,
sure?
not every princess is a fragile doll like your Natra.
Okay, but if your father yells at me, I'll be quite upset.
Well,
I
she
smile at her.
shrugs and says, that would be the most interest he's taken in my well-being in a long time.
You did say that he'd be upset if he saw how I was speaking to you. Perhaps he
Because
cares
it's
a little bit more than
improper,
we think.
or because you'd make a bad impression on me, or because you'd be encouraging my shrewish ways.
To be fair, you are the one that made the bad impression on us. He might be aware of that.
I made a bad impression on you?
Hmm, one
Then why
not.
are we fishing together?
I took interest in you.
Do you always take interest in people who make bad impressions?
I take interest in people that I find interesting. You a
Well, I
bit more
don't
so
find
than
very many people interesting.
Wait, what'd she say?
She says, well, I don't find very many people interesting.
Nor do I. Yet here you are fishing.
Which has got to be the least interesting thing that I've ever done. People really do this?
It's just an excuse to drink and eat eventually.
Well, we should have brought drinks.
That's what I said earlier, but I kind of skipped my mind. Perhaps
I
the tea
blame
did.
you.
That's fair.
We'll try it again tomorrow then, with drinks.
Sounds good. Most people fish early in the morning. Does that sound good to you?
I don't do anything early in the morning.
Then what time?
She shrugs and says, I don't know, whenever we wake up.
Early in the morning it is. It's best to get this over with so we can eat. I'll wake you up. Discipline is good for a person.
She looks like she's going to say something and then decides not to.
I believe you showed interest in rowing back to the shore. Are you still up for that?
Sure. And she scoots forward onto the middle bench of the boat and takes the oars and says, so what, just like this?
You're doing great.
Harder than it looks.
Yes, it requires a fair bit of muscle, but you should be capable.
This is exhausting.
It is. How many strolls have you taken out here with the servants?
With the servants? None with the servants. I
No?
mean, a few with noblemen who'd filled up my dance card.
Do you not have a preferred handmaiden?
I hate handmaidens. They always pull my corsets too tight.
Yes, I can imagine how that would be a bother.
Can you? Have you ever worn a corset?
No, but that's why I said imagine. It does look uncomfortable.
All right, you row. This is terrible.
Fine, fine. At least you tried.
I didn't
I,
try. I succeeded and then I stopped.
did you make it to the goalpost?
Yes.
Are we at the pier?
This was my goal right here. This spot in the middle of the lake. This is where I was rowing to, and I made it. Now it's your turn.
Very well, princess. I row us back.
Uh, Ashley,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Lord Halo comes back after about an hour to check in on you. And he says, everything all right, princess?
It is.
He points out on the water, and you see a rowboat. And he says, looks like your bodyguard and Princess Nita are, well, fishing.
She kind of turns her head and looks curiously out onto the lake and says, "Oh, lovely for them. It seems good weather for that sort of thing."
Well, that is maybe my favorite thing about this place. The weather's always great, but especially here in the summertime.
Mm. How often does it rain?
He shrugs and says, it comes and goes. Usually have rainy weeks rather than rainy days. This week's been a sunny one, though.
Well, then I suppose there's plenty to look forward to.
Looks like they're on their way back.
I wonder if they caught anything.
As they row up to the pier, uh, Lord Halo kind of steps over to the edge of the pier, and he says, "By the mothers, what the hell happened to you?" And Nita says, "It's none of your business. What are you doing?" And he says, "Enjoying the sun." And she says, "Well, we were fishing." And she gets out of the boat and up onto the pier. And she is sopping wet. And she looks at Natra and says, "Getting along all right?"
She nods and she says, "Well, it was quite peaceful up here."
Yeah, well, you missed out on a whole lot of peaceful out there too. Real peaceful. It's just fish and water and fish. It was great. We're gonna do it again tomorrow.
The princess found a new hobby.
She hides a laugh behind her hand and says, "Perhaps dressing for the water next time might be a good idea as well. It's not a bad day for a swim."
Lord Halo says, "Swimming's a great hobby." And Nita says, fuck you."
You don't like exercise. I look towards Nita.
I love exercise.
But not swimming?
She gives a little bit of a pause and looks back at Lord Halo and says, "Sorry, I don't know if you heard me. I said, fuck you." And he says, "Thank you. Anything else?" And she says, "No, you may go." And he looks at Natra and says, "Well, if you should need anything, don't hesitate to tell me."
She she nods.
I hold myself personally responsible for you.
I certainly will let you know if there's anything I need.
Nita says, Gross. No, you're not personally responsible for her. Go away. We don't want you here. He
Just
gives a
sombers off.
he gives a low bow and then just kind of walks away without saying anything. Nita looks at Natra and says, "Sorry about him. He's the worst."
She perks a brow and says, it's a very unique arrangement you have.
What is?
Oh, just being able to tell your servants to fuck off.
Well, he's
I
not my
mean,
servant. He's a lord. He's just a really terrible one.
she perks a brow and then glances over and then says, "Oh, so he's just hovering about, wanting to help?
Yeah,
Interesting."
just like sinister old men do. He holds a place of honor because he got himself flayed open when he killed like 40 people or something back in the Great War. Some kind of serious bloodbath.
Hmm.
That's what we revere people for. How much blood they've shed. Right, Virus?
That's right, especially us Dawkins.
Attaboy.
Okay. So, if you had to say what would be important to be revered for, what would be at the top of your list?
Contributions to the furtherment of humankind.
So, the medicines, sciences.
Sure. Those are two good places to start.
She nods.
Your father actually was a bit of an inspiration to me, of all people.
For doing what he wants despite the public backlash.
No, I maintain I did that first. Uh, astronomy.
Mm, I see.
He gave this he gave this speech at court years ago. You might remember it. King Chesley asked him why he was a heretic. It was such an inappropriate question, meant to get a rise out of him. And he just took it completely calmly. And he said, "Well, if you have about 20 minutes, I can explain it to you." And then he went on to show using mathematics and geometry that the eclipse spoken of in the prophecy of Hakuroni's scythes is impossible. The moon will never be in that position. That eclipse can never happen, and it never has happened before.
Mm.
And he explained it so eloquently and so civilly, despite the ridicule everyone held for him. And it was the only thing that mattered to him. Just the facts. Your religion is horseshit, is what he could have said. But he didn't. He just said, it's not possible. That's why I'm a heretic. And then he went on, like no one had asked him anything. And would you believe it? Not a single man in court probably remembers that speech at all. Maybe they think of it as the time that Aaron tried to deceive everyone. But for the entire week of the court, the colleges in Langstana were abuzz. Everyone was going over his math. Everyone was trying to do the problem. And they all came to the resounding conclusion that he's fucking right. So, she says, and kind of flicks the water off of her dress and says, "That is what matters. That's what's interesting.
Right.
Everyone who matters, everyone with an army, everyone with power, they all just believe a lie because some priest told it to them. But a
She
couple people are willing to question it."
she tips her head and says, "Well, well, for all intents and purposes, could you not go study somewhere? Something perhaps a little bit more to your sensibilities and perhaps capabilities."
I've asked.
Let me guess, the answer was no.
I can leave with a husband to his estates.
She tips her head and folds her arms and says, "You know, I have quite the interest in trades, logistics, shipments, imports and exports, artisan goods and how they're made and the craftsmen that make them." She kind of thinks a moment and then says, "I never had to leave the capital to involve myself in those sorts of things. Would you be allowed to do something like that in this area? Something a little closer to your interest?"
This isn't a city of science. This is a city of devotion. No, not much here to interest King Loric's heretic daughter, she says, and looks over at Virus and says, but maybe interesting people will come along from time to time. Sweep me off my feet, throw me in the lake.
I did not throw you in the lake, princess.
He threw me in the lake. I reached out to take a fish hanging off of the fish thread,
The lie.
and it's my story, not yours.
But you're telling it wrong.
And he pushed me.
Princess Natra, she lies. She was clumsy and she fell out of the boat.
She folds her arms and perks a brow and says, "Well, I can say that there are two entirely different stories set before me, and I'm sure between the two of you, you can come to a common ground."
She smirks and leans into Natra and says, "It's okay. We're going to do it again tomorrow. I don't know why, because it was terrible and boring and stupid, but we're going to do it again tomorrow, and I'm going to push him in."
She nods sagely and goes, "Good luck with that. He's quite aware."
Well, she shrugs and says, "I have my ways."
I'm gonna wear my armor. I'd be prepared like Worthu.
Hire a guard
Oh
to
my
come with you.
Worthu.
I bring
You
a full
need-
regiment of guards.
You need 6 people to watch you sleep in your armor.
Exactly. I'm terrified now.
If anyone
Sleep
puts
in
their
your
hands on
armor
me,
with
kill
6
them.
people watching. She gives a very exaggerated and sarcastic curtsy, and then walks down the pier away from you guys.
Demetr kind of glances at Virus.
Virus's expression goes back to being stoic.
She says, that's a rare sort, that one is.
Yes. I hope you're ready to spend more time with her, Princess, because that's what I told her to do.
Oh, right. She isn't wrong about one thing.
What's
It
that?
would be good to have more minds, keen minds in the sciences, where allowed. No wonder she's so... And she thinks about it a moment and then says, blunt. Poor thing must be frustrated.
Yes, apparently her father wants nothing but for her to get married. And she hates all of the suitors. And get this, even Prince Jax.
Oh, I can't imagine she'd... I can't imagine she'd tolerate Prince Jax for long.
I mean, Gwyn couldn't even tolerate him for very long, and this one even has a shorter fuse than her.
Quite.
Tell me, Princess, is there anywhere you would like me to escort you?
Well, what time is it by this point?
We were fishing and we caught one fish, so it's probably like 5 p.m.
3 or 4, I think. Let's say 4.
Let's walk the grounds. I don't believe we need a guide to just explore the architecture and... horticulture is gardening, right? Am I wrong?
Yep.
Okay. I want to just make sure I wasn't pulling a word out of my ass. And the local horticulture. And then we should find our way to the dining hall. I presume, if I had to guess, that the discussions with the nobility here will be fascinating.
You think so?
Why don't you flip a coin?
I get a coin. Heads for what, tails for what?
Oh, it isn't about what it lands on. Go ahead, flip it.
I flip it and I get a heads.
She nods and she says, there's half a chance that it is a fascinating insight on how the kingdom functions, and there's half a chance that the bureaucracy here is strangling. We'll have to see.
Beerus nods.
But if the local princess can pull what she's pulled already, then next to her, I will look the saint.
It's probably true. I imagine King Lork seems to be a staunch traditionalist, and he might take great joy in seeing someone as proper as yourself. Speak to him with proper stature.
She tips her head and nods and says, um, I do it to appease the nobles, you know.
I do, and you're able to actually put on a front, unlike his daughter.
I think she thinks me simple.
I think she'll be in for quite a bit of a surprise whenever you two spend a bit more time together. I don't think she liked me before our fishing trip. And you have the added bonus that she seems to idolize King Aaron a little bit.
She might be useful in the long run once we leave and once we have time to consider all of the acquaintances we've made. Someone with such a keen eye for the sciences, despite her manners, and who seems to idolize our king, might be more useful in our kingdom. If we can get that arranged, it may be beneficial.
I agree. I don't think it would be too hard if she is open to find a proper suitor for her in the Dawkins. And under King Aaron's leadership, I'm sure that she would be allowed to visit Longstana.
Well, some of the knights from the desert are a little more laid back. Perhaps we could arrange something, but that is to be discussed at a later time.
That's true. I actually forgot for a second that our kingdom recently expanded.
It did, certainly, and they seem much more free-willed than most, even our own kingdom, to be honest. You would think that the nobles in the Dalkins would have caught up to the whims of their king, but thus so far they still seem to want to stifle them, so we might have to see.
The only thing I worry about is King Lorik's pride. Will he allow his daughter to marry someone that is of just knightly stature, even? Or lordly? The only person that she mentioned as a suitor was King Jax.
She thinks for a moment and says, to be honest, at this point, he might be pleased to get her out of his hair in good standing.
Princess, do you think you can navigate the conversation and perhaps get him to slip up? You are eating supper with him tonight, are you not?
I am eating supper at the dining hall. If he deigns to show, then yes, I suppose I would be. It depends on how far down the table. It would be rude for him to put me towards the middle. If I could have within 3 seats of him, I should be able to navigate the conversation.
I certainly think that he'll want to make as much use out of this dinner as we do. He should sit you close.
Perhaps, but perhaps not, lest it look like favoritism. To keep me.
He's obviously not shy to showing favoritism.
I suppose not. Then yes, we will see where he wishes me at his table, and if it is close enough, then there will be a conversation had. Is there anything you might be curious about? Something you think might be relevant? Coming from a military sort of background?
Not anything that I can weasel out of the king, I don't think. I plan on spending some time at their fighting dojo, and perhaps with some military personnel. I'm fascinated a bit after learning about this Lord Halo's involvement in the Great War.
Slayed quite a few people, apparently. She said something like 40?
That is what she said. However, her dislike of him is a little bit worrying. She claims it to be him being creepy and old, but I'm not sure that that's where her entire hatred stems from.
Hmm.
Did your father ever mention anything about him? Perhaps?
Has
Apparently,
she
he
heard anything about this dude?
Um, you might have heard his name before, but you didn't know his story.
Okay. She shrugs and says, if it were me, and if what you say is true, he's a past suitor. Somebody that tried to perhaps tame her at some point, and she's still resentful for it.
That could be true, but it would have been after he lost, presumably, a loved one. He was given relief by your father 10 years ago. He traveled and eventually settled in Lorix lands.
Hmm.
Perhaps he made advances on her while he was on either drunk or high, I'm not quite sure, but he seems to remain that way.
Right. Well, I suppose we'll see if more is revealed when dinner comes about.
Indeed.
Do you guys go and explore the architecture?
Yeah, we just walk around the grounds for a little while.
Okay. Most of it is sort of more of the same of what I've described already. A lot of Grecian influence. Not that Greece exists, but just it is that style.
Mhm.
Almost everything is white, or a very, very pale gray. All of the gardens are like unreasonably perfect. Um, Clearly, they have a lot of gardeners that put a lot of time into it.
How secretive do these gardens look?
They're pretty secret. You could definitely exchange secrets in them and put secrets on people.
So there's no jail
Uh,
cell that drops down and keeps people out?
Not that you see. It's hard to say. It would be hidden, obviously. Um, yeah, and you kind of explore around until dinner. Um, when dinner comes around, both of you are invited to go. Do you both go?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, she's going.
Okay. Um, Lorik sits Natra immediately beside him. Um, and Nita sits on the other side of him. The queen is not here tonight.
She's
She
attending an
wasn't.
execution.
Yeah,
And
she does it by herself. She wasn't
the
she wasn't there when she greeted us, right? Either, or was she?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not there right now. And neither is his son.
Mhm.
And after like a couple minutes of people just sort of making small talk, there's not a lot of people here eating right now. It's Lorik, Nita, Natra, Virus, Halo, and a few other lords and their ladies. Um, Only maybe like 12 people in total. And after just a little bit of kind of small talk, Lorik just leans over to Natra and says, "Well, Princess, I won't waste any of your time. There is a proposal I have for you."
She tips her head and says, well, I would be interested to hear it.
Aaron wants the salt mine at Gorstadun, and the silver mine at Leon, and the sawmill at Leon. I'm prepared to trade those if you'll marry my son. And I think that's where we're gonna call it.
Oh boy.
Decisions.
It's not a decision. Natra is lesbian.
Boy.
Counter proposal, your daughter.
Yeah.
Double or nothing.
Oh boy.
Give me both or nothing.
Both.
I'll tell you what. Give me both, and you can keep the salt mine.
We're binding our blood pressure in the mountains.
GG's. That was fun.
Yeah, we did it. We did diplomacy.
Yep, we used diplomacy and calmed him down.